Welcome back to Live With, brought to you by Species Nutrition. I'm Dave Palumbo, and today's guest is a good friend of mine. He's the promoter of the Arnold Australia, as well as the guy who runs all of Australia in the bodybuilding world, at least. From my perspective, it's a pleasure to welcome back to the show, Tony Doherty.
Hey, Dave.
Good morning.
Listeners, how you doing?
Good morning. I know it's your very early over there still, right?
Yeah, I got up early just for you.
Thank you. Well, you got nothing else going on there. It's not like you can run a gym or anything like that, or any bodybuilding shows. They got you completely shut down, right?
Completely, yeah. It's really bad. So
it must be murder. It must be driving you crazy because you're a workaholic like I am. And if they don't let you work, you must just not know what to do with yourself all day.
Well, it's been difficult, and I feel for the members, because with a gym like this, Dave, a lot of people come here for mental health reasons. It's
Sure.
not all about building muscles and flexing in the mirror. A lot of people, this is what they do to cope. And without that mechanism,
right.
I think it's really hurting a lot of people, probably a lot more than what the virus is. But, I'm never going to feel sorry for myself. But the first lockdown for us was 13 weeks. So I actually worked harder than ever. I came into the gym every single day, I think for 91 days, completely renovated the place, and we polished the floors, put insulation in, and
that's
moved
awesome.
Equipment, put up more pictures, and made it, better than ever, and did all the things that I can't do being a 24-hour gym.
Right.
Then we got to open up for 2 weeks, which was absolutely fantastic. And then they gave us 12 hours notice to shut everything in the state all over again. So this time's been, more difficult. I mean,
yeah.
I'm lucky. I can come into work and do my online orders. I'm doing a big warehouse conversion next door, for education and events and stuff like that. So I've been staying busy. If I had to sit around in the apartment all day, I don't know how I could do it.
You're like me, that you probably could find a million things to do despite not opening the gym and stuff like that. Like you said, you redid the whole gym. But obviously, having to cancel the Arnold Classic in Australia at the last minute, I never talked to you after that, but I have to imagine, and I know you because I know you for a long time, you must have done everything in your power to try to pull that show off and I remember we did talk about it, because, this is your livelihood. This, not only do you make your money from it, but that's your passion. That's what you look forward to every single year, running that show. For them to pull the carpet out from under you, I can't even imagine the depression you must have been in after that.
Yeah, it was crazy because, I left Columbus. Obviously, the expo got cancelled there.
Right.
And at that stage, it was 2 weeks to go into our event. And look, to sum it up, we missed out by a week. If it had been a week earlier, I would have got away with it.
Right.
And then 6 days before the event, the government just said, no, there's no expos. We're closing the convention center down, bad luck kind of thing. And it was disappointing for me and also for my staff, because they've worked 365 days straight on it. I've invested everything. People say, oh, yeah, but you're not going to lose money. I said, we ran an office for a year, with 7 staff. We did all the advertising, all the billboards, all the what I do. I go crazy with all the street posters, all that sort of thing. So we pretty much, lost everything. And with 6 days notice, it was really, really difficult.
So when you lose that kind of money, and I don't know if you want to share the number with us, but when you lose that kind of money, how do you recoup that? What do you do? Do you just do you personally take the loss for it, or how does that work, business-wise?
Yeah. Basically, I just took the hit. Just moved some stuff around, and if it had been more, honestly, it would have wiped me out. Like it was this close.
Right.
I guess I was lucky that 3 or 4 of our, probably 4 or 5 of our big sponsors and exhibitors who'd put their money in agreed to leave it in for next year.
Oh, wow.
Just to help me through it,
Yeah.
And without that, we wouldn't have been able to get through. I would have been bankrupt.
Wow. Oh my God.
It was pretty bad. And I thought, well, at least I've got the gyms, to keep the cash flow going.
Right.
It was funny. It was the Sunday night. It should have been the close of the Arnold.
Yeah.
So it was Sunday, the 22nd of March, and I thought, at least, tomorrow we'll go back to the gym and we'll just rip into it and just, I'll make it up. It'll take me a while, but I'll catch up.
Right.
And that night, one of my buddies called and said, hey, turn your TV on, and there was our Prime Minister, which is equivalent to your President,
right,
saying, all gyms closed tomorrow at 12 noon. Huh? What? So this year's just been in shit, you know?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how you put it, Dave. It's just a fucking write-off this year. And now we've had to also cancel. So here in Victoria, which is where Melbourne is, our state's been isolated from the rest of Australia. So we're not allowed to travel even interstate, let alone international.
Wow.
And therefore, you know, I had all my state shows and nationals due to run in October. And I made the decision last week to cancel the whole thing because, you know, what's the nationals if you can't have each state being able to
Sure,
come in, right?
You can't travel to the show, actually, right.
Right. And then a couple of states could come here, but then they'd have to isolate in a hotel at their own expense for 2 weeks when they got back, which is about $3,000 to do. So it just wasn't fair. So basically, all income streams from this year have been wiped out.
Oh my God! You know, Tony, the reason I even bring this up, and I think it's important that we bring light to this, is because you're a guy who's worked your whole life, busted your butt to get the nice things that you have in life, cars and houses and gyms, and you know, you started from nothing. You built yourself your own little empire, and every year you kind of lay it on the line to raise up your game. The problem with that is you never expect to take a hit like this where they're going to completely turn off all your businesses like on the drop of a dime. So here you are thinking, I invest everything every year and I try to make my stuff bigger. Now all of a sudden, all the money you put into it is gone. I can't even imagine how that must feel because you kind of risk it every year because of that. And there's really no risk usually. Who would expect, some kind of an epidemic like this to pop up? How do you mentally stay positive in that situation and say, you know what, I'm going to recoup this. I'm going to come back better than ever. A lot of people would get seriously depressed and would almost like give up.
Well, I think what kind of makes it easy is I've never been driven by the financial aspect of it because I've been broke so many times, Dave, and I've lost it before. So, I'm driven by passion and loving what I do. So I guess that makes it easy because I've built this brand with the gyms that I absolutely love, and I never get up and think, oh shit, I've got to go to work.
Right.
I get out of bed and I can't wait to get here. And that's never changed in 20 something years I've done it. And each year, being a promoter and doing things on the scale that I do and always scaling up, there's a chance I could lose it every year. So it's not like normally, it's been, you and I have talked, there's been a ton of years where I haven't made money or I haven't broken even and I've actually gone backwards. I'm it's all right, we'll go again.
Yeah.
And I've always had that attitude. So although this one's kind of blindsided us a little bit, it's also given me an opportunity just to have a good reset and to think about the things I do enjoy doing. And then, as I said, to renovate the gym that was really, really well needed. Not just this gym, but 3 of our gyms.
Yeah.
And
how many gyms do you own now, Tony?
I've scaled it back to 3.
Okay.
3 here, and then we've got a license, one or a franchise, one over in Perth. So 4 Doherty's gyms in Australia.
Gotcha.
And we've built a fantastic brand, that people love. Our renewal rate's higher than probably anywhere in the world. And, that was the other killer. When we did get to open up and everyone saw what we'd done and the renovations, of course, everyone was so desperate. We had the best 2 weeks of business I've ever had in 25 years. Just in this gym, I'm in Brunswick, our headquarters here.
Yeah.
We signed up over 400 new members in 2 weeks.
Oh,
I thought,
God.
wow, we're back. This is going to be great. Then we got 12 hours notice just to pull the pin.
Now, did you have to set up special accommodations in the gym for like distancing and stuff like that, and masks? What was the protocols that you had to put in place?
We were allowed to have 20 people per room. So fortunately, this is, I guess, like if you think of Gold's Venice, where you go through one opening, there's another room.
Yeah, I've been at the gym. It's great. Yeah, like that.
Right. So it's like that. So that kind of meant we had 5 spaces here. We could have up to 100 people in the gym at once, as long as.
Yeah, that's good.
I had so what I did, I put an extra staff member on each entrance to each room, and then they had to count. And if it got to 20, no one could come in. You're like, hey, you have to wait till somebody finishes
what
doing
a pain in the ass that is.
And then you can go do some sit-ups for a minute or whatever. And the members were very understanding. The other thing is, because we're 24/7, we'd never closed. Don't forget, Dave, I've told you the story. When I first opened up here in 1998, and we were the first or the only 24-hour gym in Australia, I threw the keys away because I didn't want to have a plan B. So when I opened the door, I said, well, I'm not going to need these ever. Nothing's ever going to let this place close. Natural disasters, whatever. So I threw the keys. So when I heard on the news that we had to close, the first thing I'm doing was calling locksmith.
You had no lock.
Right. So the morning that we had to close down, we had till noon. So I had to get this guy to go around to 3 of our gyms, putting new barrels in the locks and giving us keys. That was kind of weird, but I always think that, Dave, and this might be good for the listeners, that you can sit around and feel sorry for yourself and be miserable and just be like everyone else, or you can stop and think, hey, my worst day is better than some poor person's best day.
Right.
That I've been to all the shitholes in the world. I've been to the favelas in Brazil. I've been to the townships in Africa. I've been deep into the slums in India. And I think about those people in those countries that have got nothing and what they would do to have the lives that we've got even in lockdown.
Right.
They'd cut off their friggin' leg to have the kind of freedoms and life that we've got. So although it's difficult, I think you've got to keep perspective and say, it's not that bad. Yeah. Our grandparents went through way worse than this on a daily basis for years at a time. So I'm not going to let it get me down. Fuck it.
Right. You know what sucks, though? It sucks is that it's like ours is being caused by ourselves. In other words, we don't have to have this, this kind of quarantine. The government decided they're going to do this to us, and it's disheartening because it's like we don't really have a say. I always felt like, if you don't want to go to the gym because, I have 3 young kids, so I probably wouldn't go to the gym. Even my gyms are open here in Florida. I don't go to the gym because I don't want to put them at risk. God forbid I get COVID. But that's a personal decision that I made. If I do want to go to the gym, I can go to the gym. My gyms are open. They're making money, at least the gym owners. I don't know why the government feels it necessary to sanction and make their own rules telling you can't open your gym. I mean, your gym probably was the safest place to go with all the protocols you had in place and the safety nets. It's like they're not allowing you as a businessman to do what you love to do, and they're essentially potentially bankrupting you. I mean, if you had just started these gyms recently, you could have been out on your ass.
Oh man, if it had been even 3 years ago, I wouldn't have made it. But
yeah.
If you stop and think about it this way too, Dave, like when we first opened, restaurants were open with same thing. They had limitations on restaurants, but when you checked in, you had to write your name like on a clipboard with a pen. So they give you the same dirty pen that everybody else uses.
Yeah.
They hand you a clipboard that everybody's touched, right? And then you can make up some bullshit name. You could be Dave Palumbo and just make up a phone number, and they've got no way of tracing that back because it was all about tracing.
Yeah.
And so when I spoke to the government about it, I said, well, and I did some media and some big radio shows, talk radio here. I said, hey, gyms are the safest place in the world because we're in the sweat business. So I said, we've had hand sanitizing stations in my gyms for 12 years. We didn't just do this now. And then when someone checks in with their membership tag, we know what time they got there, their name, their date of birth. There's a photograph up on their file. We can tell you what time they got there, what time they left. We've got 28 CCTV cameras just in this gym. So we can even see who passes who in what room.
True.
There is no close contact. We've got the benches all 1.5 meters apart, which is like 6 feet or whatever the equivalent is. I taped off every second treadmill and switched it off so that nobody could be next to each other. We went above and beyond anything they could imagine. Mm-hmm. And this is where I agree with you that I'm saying, well, if we've done all that and people still want to come, well, so what? Let them come.
Right.
We've got hygiene stations everywhere with the spray disinfectant and paper hand towel. So they had to that to come in, they had to agree that they wiped down every single bench they used. Yeah, and the big guys and all, they were fantastic. They're wiping down the dumbbell handles, the ropes.
Because they want to work out. They don't care. They'll do whatever they got to do. Exactly.
Right. And then we don't get a say in that. In fact, we don't get any consultation whatsoever. And, you know, when I do my daily questions on Instagram, people always say, oh, have they told you when you can open? I'm like, they don't call me. I just got to watch the news like everyone else. We don't get consulted as an industry. And, you know, it was not just me, but it's crazy because we can still go to this lockdown in the city now, really it's just the pharmacy and the supermarkets that are open. They've closed all the retail.
Wow.
But the last lockdown, I could go to the retail, like we've got a big thing called Bunnings, which is like your Home Depot.
Yeah.
And you go there and you line up and there's 1,000 people in the store and they don't take your name. You don't have to scan in. They don't check your ID.
Right.
I'm like, well, that really is close distancing. It's not being policed. And even now I can go to the supermarket here, which is packed. I go to the market, it's packed. And their excuse is now we've got mandatory face masks. So if you go outdoors without a face mask, it's a $200 fine.
Oh, my God. If
you get caught during the day driving somewhere more than 5 kilometers, which is 3 miles from your home,
right,
and this is only to go to the store or to say drive to the park to do your exercise, but within a 3 mile limit,
right,
it's a $1,670 fine. It gets better.
Oh, you guys are serious over there. Wow.
Yeah, what about this? So then from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m., there's a curfew. And if you get caught outside during that time, unless you're an emergency worker or doing a night shift in a hospital or something, the fine's $5,400 for being out of your house at night.
Wow, you guys got like martial law over there, it sounds like. Holy mackerel.
Yeah. The police are actually patrolling the parks and the streets with soldiers.
Wow, you would think that you were at war or something like that.
Yeah, you know, and I think that the most deaths we've had in one day is like 20 or 25.
Yeah, and it's probably just from old people that would have died anyway. Let me ask you this question. The Olympia obviously is going to be in December. Are you going to actually be able to leave Australia to come to the Olympia? Because I know you love to do that, every year.
This is a killer, man, because obviously I do all the backstage interviews for NPC News Online. All us media people work together and we have a lot of fun. It's great. I mean, it's probably one of the highlights of my year. The problem is, because they've moved it now to December, if I was able to go, and right now we can't leave the country, but let's say they loosen up on that. They've said now until there's a vaccine, if you're an Australian and you leave and you come back, you have to go into mandatory detention in a hotel at your expense for 2 weeks in isolation. Now, if the Olympia's on December 16 to 20, you lose a day coming home. So at the best, I'd get back on December 22nd, which means I'd be in isolation, lockdown for Christmas and New Year. So I wouldn't get to see my kids or my family. I mean, even now I haven't seen my parents for 3 months. And, Mum's 80 years old and I can't go visit her.
I was actually thinking 2 weeks in a hotel all by myself actually sounds like a vacation to me.
Yeah, but the problem is when you do that, you can't leave your room.
I know, believe me.
I mean, you're really locked. It's like a jail cell. You're sitting there just, I guess, you watch Netflix and talk online. That's about it.
But Tony, who patrols this? Do they have like government employees watching all these people coming off the airplane in the hotel room?
Well, what happened here is that originally they did that and they put them into hotels. And this is in our state where they lost control of it. So instead of having, like the military or something at the hotels for the international people arriving, they just got the cheapest security guards they could. And apparently, some of them were taking the girls out for a cigarette and, sneaking back into their room for a little groovy time and this sort of thing. And this is how it spread. Then the other thing they did here, that they were rotating the staff between the nursing homes or the old people's homes.
Oh, my God. How stupid is that? Yeah.
Right. So we've had 2 big problems here. One, they fucked up the hotel quarantine by being cheap.
Yeah.
And then they just passed the blame between them, but really they fucked it up. And then secondly, they let it get into the nursing homes. But the solution to this would have been really simple because our numbers were really low, Dave. Like we were getting, 20, 30 new cases a day. And I said back then, the best thing they could do, instead of putting all these, because they banned all the international flights, but they still had like 60 hotels that the government were paying for. So I said, well, why not, if you test positive, you got to come with us right now, and we're going to put you into a hotel at our expense for 2 weeks. We'll feed you, whatever you want.
Right.
The problem is when people tested positive, they just say, hey, go home and isolate and don't go anywhere.
No one listened.
Yeah, a lot of people, particularly, on a socio-economic lower level, they've got 10 people in their house and they're sharing one bathroom. You get COVID, they say, Dave, go home and don't leave the house. But you live with 10 people or 3 other families, and this is, then it got into the what do you guys call it? We call it housing commission, like the, the government housing.
Yeah, the Section 8 housing, yeah.
Yeah, and then we got a pandemic, went through those kind of places. So they've just screwed up everything they could here in this state. Whereas the rest of Australia is almost COVID-free. They're getting like 1 case a day. Like in South Australia, they've had no new cases in a month. In Perth, Western Australia, where our other gym is, their borders completely closed. They don't want anyone in there, even other Australians. It's just shut. Yeah. And they've got 0 cases.
Right.
So we've got 7 states in Australia, and pretty much they're all locked down to themselves, and they don't have a problem.
Right. Let me ask you a question.
There's no tourism. There's no international tourism. Yeah. There's no domestic tourism. It's kind of messed up.
Yeah, no, it is. You guys are going to bankrupt your country over there, even though ours are probably going to be bankrupted too. Do you foresee bodybuilding being restored by 2021?
Yeah, I think our state borders will be open. Internationally, I've got a conundrum as to what to do with the Arnold in March, because at this stage they're saying there's no way we're going to accept any international visitors, for at least a year into Australia.
That sucks.
So that means my men's pro show, which is really the big draw card, which, as you know, this would be our 22nd consecutive year that we've done it. You can't do that without international athletes.
Well, I hate to break it to you, Tony. You already lost. Your streak is over already, but from this year, unfortunately.
Well, yeah. Well, that's it. We broke the streak this year, so it'll be a fresh start. But everyone,
new streak is starting.
Did. Everyone did.
It's going to be 2 consecutive years. You don't hold it now. I mean, would you just hold a? I guess the amateur shows is probably where you make most of your money anyway. So as long as you can hold those, financially at least that would help you, right?
Yeah. Look, from a bodybuilding point of view, we'll get by. I think bodybuilding will be strong and well. We do 2 big seasons here, one in March, one in October. So we'll do the March season as usual, where we have a qualifier in each state.
Right.
And then they come here normally for the Arnold. Now that might change shape a little bit, because as a multi-sport festival, with 50 different sports and people coming from 50, 60 different countries, that's not going to happen next year. Arnold won't be able to come. Bob Lorimer won't be able to come.
Right.
Our international judges, Steve, won't be able to come. This is a fact. And then at the end of the year, I might do something bigger then, and we'll have our nationals in October. So from a bodybuilding alone point of view, we'll be fine. When I made the decision last week to cancel the nationals, I guess it was 10, 11 weeks out, which gave people time to get back off their diet. A lot of people said they were very grateful, because I could have left it, until
the last 2 or 3 weeks out.
Yeah, and you can't. People are paying for coaching and all their diet and everything else they do. So I think we made a good call, Dave. It just sucks.
Yeah.
Like, we've never been through anything like this. And me, I've got a happy disposition. I'm a upbeat kind of person, as you know. I always find a solution. I always find a way forward. Like you, I stay busy.
Yeah.
But the impact that this year is going to have on society and the world, I don't know that we'll ever recover. I think it's shit. You couldn't have written a script for this, Dave. Like like when I saw you in March, if we had said, okay, you're going to go home, cancel the Arnold, shut your gyms down for 6 months, and have no income, and not be allowed to leave your house, I would have kicked in the head flying.
It's like a bad movie. It's like a movie you're watching that you can't believe what's going on, and you can watch it. If you saw it in a movie, you'd be like, this will never happen. It's only a movie.
Right. It's something else. So, But it looks good where you are in Florida. I saw they're moving to New York. Even the New York Pro is going to go down to Florida.
Yeah, they don't care in Florida. I think the governor's like they're only worried about Burmese pythons down here. They don't care about COVID or anything. They don't want to shut. I'm glad. God forbid, everything's open here. We got to be thankful that they're that liberal and progressive about it. But the bottom line is that we were closed long enough. I'm sure the businesses were hurt long enough here. You know what it is? People just got fed up. They started suing the government, and the government's like, you know what? Screw it. Open up everything. We don't care. Thank God. I know Steve's gym just opened up the other day up there in New York. Finally.
Yeah. I sent him a message because he'd been shut for pretty much 5 months or something.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy for him because he's got a very similar clientele and similar kind of model to what we have, where it's people's home away from home. They live for it, and I really feel bad for the members that don't train because they want to train. They train because they fucking need to train, and they're nutcases without it.
Are they going to make it mandatory over there in Australia? Because I know in Australia, they tell you guys what to do. There's not as much freedom as we have here. Are they going to make it mandatory to get this vaccine that they're supposedly developing that we know they already have developed probably years ago already? But
well, what they've said is that they're not going to make it mandatory, but if you don't do it, you won't be able to get any social welfare benefits.
or go anywhere, basically.
Or travel. Yeah, right. So if you want to use your passport, you're going to have the vaccine.
Wow, that sucks. Do you believe that there's a conspiracy here, or do you think that it's a legitimate vaccine?
Look, I don't know. I think when they rush anything medically, normally these things take years to develop. So you've got to stop and think, well, they seem to have rushed this one, or, was it already there? Was there an agenda?
Yeah.
So part of me is like, I don't really want to put something in my body that's, not tested properly.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it sucks not traveling and not having a life. So,
so it's really not voluntary, is what you're saying. In other words, you don't have to get it if you don't want to. You're just not going to be able to. You're basically just be in jail for the rest of your life.
Yeah. So, look, I'm just going to cross that bridge when we come to it.
Right.
If the numbers keep dropping and the figures are low, I mean, up until this lockdown, Australia was probably handling it the best in the world. Our death rate was really, really low. Like we couldn't. The total in Australia didn't hit 100 until like July.
Yeah. You know what I'd like to know? I'd like to know the statistic on the amount of deaths that have been prevented from pneumonia. Because I have to imagine the lockdown probably also influenced all the other diseases that normally kill people that we don't even talk about, right?
Well, a lot of the people that are listed as dying from COVID, they were, already immune deficient, or they had, stage 3 cancer, or they were in, an old people's home, living with dementia and prone to pneumonia and all these things. So when they die, they say, well, it was the COVID. Yeah. So this, I don't know. I mean, you hear all the conspiracy theories, but you stop and think, but why? Why would a country effectively bankrupt itself? And why would 100 different countries that fucking hate each other all shut down and kill their economies?
Yeah.
So none of it really makes any sense. I think it's obviously a highly infectious disease that wipes out unhealthy and old people. And I was just driving here early this morning in the dark to do the interview with you, and I heard on the radio, they said obese people have, 4 times the risk of getting COVID and dying from it. I'm like, that's because they're obese. They got 4 times of everything.
It doesn't take a brain surgeon to figure that one out.
Right. So, look, I just don't know, Dave. I try not to overthink it. Yeah. In fact, I've made a habit of trying not to watch the news too often.
I don't watch it either.
You really get sucked into it.
I don't watch it at all. Too negative.
You know what? I'm really happy for you guys. I know. I talked to Bob Lorimer, and the gyms are open up there in Columbus. And I talked to my buddies in Florida, and all your gyms are open. I was messaged with Flex Lewis the other day, and he was saying that they all just threatened the government, and the government said, "Oh, if I could just open up as you were," and I wish we had those kind of powers here, but we don't.
Yeah, so but then again, you guys don't have any cases of it, so maybe the government's smart. Let's take it. Let's change gears for a second. Let's talk about Phil Heath's comeback to try to win number 8 this year at the Olympia. since you and I like to talk bodybuilding shop with you.
Yeah, I was going to say that's enough of that.
Enough negative stuff. What do you think about his chances to win it? Everyone hated Phil when he, the last year he was in it when he lost to Rhoden, because everyone loves to hate on the champion. Now that he's been gone, people are kind of like rooting for him. Oh, he's going to save the Olympia. He's going to come back. He's going to win at number 8. Do you think he'll win 8 when it's all said and done? Do you think when the smoke clears, do you think he's got it in him, or do you think we're just like remembering the Phil Heath from his heyday?
I sincerely believe that if Phil comes in his best shape, and he had that operation, fixed up his stomach problem, whatever.
Supposedly, yeah.
Right. So if that's all good, let's say if that's the case, and he comes anywhere near his best condition, nobody's going to stand next to him. He's going to be first, second, and third.
Well, you know what? He really was in great shape the year he lost to Rhoden. I mean, aside from the fact that he had some distension issues, he was the best conditioned guy on stage. You really didn't.
From the front, you could see his flaws, but from the back, he was the winner all day long.
Absolutely.
I mean, his back bicep shot was better than Rhoden's or anyone else in that show, and I think that. He was probably a little stiff, and obviously he didn't take it too well, getting beaten, when he was going for his 8th Olympia.
Yeah, why would he?
But, I know Phil as well as anyone. In fact, every year at the Olympia when I'm backstage after the pre-judging, he'll always come back and say, listen, what do you think where I'm at? Because he knows I just shoot straight.
Yeah.
And I'll say, like those years with Kai, I'm like, man, it's really close. Like he's beaten you in some poses, or you're a little flat tonight, or you didn't pop when you walked out.
Yeah.
And we've always had a very open thing backstage at the Olympia. We've kind of been in his corner to a big extent, just with pure honesty. And I still think that there's no one in pro bodybuilding at Phil's level if he comes close to his best shape. But, I'm just going to put that out there. I think the other interesting thing, and this is no respect to, Brandon and Rolly and Rami and all these guys, Brandon looked fantastic last year. He improved probably more than shit. Look how much he's improved over the last, say, 3 years.
Yeah.
And I think everybody's terrified of Rami. Well, I'm not sure if he can get into the country, but let's assume he gets into the country.
Right.
We still haven't seen the best Rami. I mean, he hasn't nailed his condition at the pre-judging yet, period. The year that he won in, where were we? Brazil, Arnold, 1 year, he went pretty close to being, right on it as I've ever seen him.
Right.
But he just seems to miss that final little peak. And you go through the guys, you think, Brandon at his best next to Phil at his best, I think Phil wins.
Yeah. Do you think we'll see Rhoden on stage?
Apparently not. Reading between the lines, it doesn't look that way. And I know that when Jake took over the Olympia, the initial statement was, he's good to go. He's innocent until proven guilty.
Right.
And obviously, I think they've reassessed that. Whether it's at Pro League headquarters or whether it's at the Olympia office, and thought, well, maybe that's just a little risky. I mean, it's a serious case and charges that he's facing, Dave.
Right.
And if he was to be found guilty, and I don't know when his trial is or whatever.
I don't know what's taking so long. I've never seen a trial take so long. Have you?
Well, I thought it was going to be in July this year, but I know over here, like a lot of big trials have been postponed up to 12 months because of the COVID thing, and even the courts are shut here. So, apart from real emergency stuff. So I don't know. I think that they're probably erring on the side of caution with the whole thing. I mean, it could be a minefield if they get it wrong. And, as much as I feel for him and I like Shawn, I think that if it was any other major sport, they'd probably do the same thing.
You think so? If you ran bodybuilding and it was your decision to make, would you let Rhoden in?
Look, I'd have to know more about the facts.
There's no facts. He's accused of rape. He's going to go to trial. He's innocent until proven guilty. I don't know what the right answer is. I'm just asking your opinion. Would you allow him in until he was proven guilty?
Probably not.
And what would be the reasoning that you would use for that? I'm just wondering,
To protect our sport. You know, I just think that the sport doesn't need a black eye like that. Let's say it's 50-50. Okay, let's say he gets found innocent. I say, well, come back and compete. You're reinstated right now.
Right.
But if he's found guilty, and it's in Utah, right?
Yeah.
Which is like the Mormon capital of the world.
Yes.
So if he's found guilty, he might get, 15, 20 years?
Possibly, yeah.
So the risk of having your champion guy doing 15 years for rape, I think it's too great of a risk for our sport. So if I was running the sport, my thing, even in the position I'm in our sport, is we don't own the sport or run the sport. We're guardians of the sport.
Right.
Joe Weider started all this, him and Ben, all these years ago, and Jim Mannion's doing a fantastic job as our leader. And I think all of us in these positions, even me with the director for Australia or whatever I am, it's our job to be guardians of our sport.
Yeah.
Not to make the rules, not to change the rules, but to protect, what all of our previous people have built for us to have the life, for you to do what you do and for me to do what I do. And I think you have to protect it, man. So as much as I hate that answer, that's probably what I would do.
It sucks for him in a sense, only because of COVID, he's also taking a financial hit too, because, if he was 20 years old, it would be a different story. He's in his mid 40s now. He's missing the 2 best years of his career, so it's a shame. If he's innocent, it's a shame. If he's guilty, then obviously he deserves to go to jail. So I mean, that's the bottom line.
Right. So just on that, Phil Heath's not up on rape charges, and Brandon Curry's not up on rape charges, and I hope the guy's innocent. I hope it works out great for him. And like you said, and if he's not, then you reap what you sow.
Let me ask you one more question. I don't mean to interrupt, but I want to get this in before I forget. I can't remember things anymore. Kai Greene, you know Kai pretty well. I mean, you've spent a lot of time with Kai. Why do you think Kai is not competing?
I don't know. I don't think even Kai knows the answer to that, because he gets. I think when he didn't win those 2 or 3 Olympias where he probably should have won.
Yeah.
I think he really thought, well, the world's against me in bodybuilding. They're never going to let me win.
Right.
So why bother? And then, 2016, wasn't he come out here and he won the Arnold in Columbus? He won the Arnold here.
Yeah.
He won in Brazil. He won 2 or 3 Arnolds that year.
Yeah.
And, he looked unbelievable. And then even last year, when Phil wasn't competing, and you saw pictures of Kai like 4 weeks before the show, just looking like he always looks,
Yeah, like a freak.
It's funny because every year in Vegas, I'll find Kai and we'll have breakfast or whatever.
Yeah.
And he'll come into wherever we're staying at 6 or 7 in the morning, and he's absolutely drenched in sweat. And he's already done like a 2-hour cardio session.
Right.
And he's eating clean food, and he looks like he's 2 weeks out of stage condition all the time. So, as a fan, man, there's nothing more I'd like to see than Kai at his best to have one more shot at it.
Right.
But for whatever reason, and I think previous to Dan taking over, he had some problems with the previous administration.
Yeah.
And there was a whole lot of, the backstory. There's a whole lot of
but now they're gone.
stuff.
That's why I thought he has a perfect opportunity now to start fresh.
Right. Well, that's why I thought he might have stepped up last year. And then this year, I'm sure they would extend an invitation to him if they could. And they still may. I mean, it's not until December. And Kai always looks incredible. But I think he's been able to go in different directions because Kai works, man. I mean, he doesn't stop. He outworked both of us two put together. He never misses a session. He never eats crappy food. He's got these projects, with his TV appearances and movies and comic books and all the other stuff that he's working on. And then on top of that, his supplement company, and you know how hard that is.
Yeah.
And how hard he works on that. So he's probably realized that he can be pretty healthy, look absolutely insane, and make more money being the brand Kai Greene than trying to win this Sandow statue. I think his priority shifted a little from just being single-minded, I have to win the Olympia to accomplish something in my life, to saying, well, you know what? I'm Kai Greene. I don't need that either.
Yeah.
So, more power to him, and I'd love to see him there. But if that's not for him, I'd support him no matter what. And we've got to be really proud of Kai, because he's doing a lot of mainstream stuff, and he's working with Marvel Comics, and he's got all this stuff going on in the background that he might, crack to another level. Who knows?
Yeah. No, it's true. It's true.
Now, before I forget, the one that I think we need to discuss coming into this Olympia, because it's a wild card, is Flex Lewis.
I was going to ask you that next.
Right. Now, as we know, and I'm always been close with him and Neil Hill, and talked to them extensively, about how much weight he needs to lose to make that 212.
Yeah.
And sometimes he's sacrificing, 20 pounds in the last 2-3 weeks just to make that number.
It's a lot of weight.
And to make that weight, right. So let's say 212, let's say 225. He's already in contest shape. So he's sacrificing just muscle and water to get just under that weight just for the weigh-in. So let's say if he doesn't sacrifice that money, that weight, and he gets out to, 240 or something before he gets really hard and grainy as he does. Man, he is a serious contender. I mean, you look at him shot for shot with anyone, and, brother, I reckon he can push. I mean, I'll just say he'll be top 5 no matter what, but he could squeeze up fourth, third, second, first.
I mean, the only thing hurting him is his height, obviously, but, I think that, because of his graininess and that quality that he brings to the stage, he's definitely a dangerous guy,
How do you see it? How do you see him?
I see him as dangerous. I see when you see a guy like him next to a Brandon Curry, next to a Ramy. These are guys that have impressive muscle, but they don't have that Dorian, grainy, dry, freaky muscle that is actually on a nice shape too. So I think that he will beat guys that I think that a lot of people think he's not capable of beating, because when you see him next to him, you're going to be like, holy mackerel, this guy is like from another planet,
Yeah. I've wanted him to step up. I remember like 4 or 5 years ago we were having this discussion, and people were saying, no, stay in the 212. That's where you're at your best. I'm like, fuck that, go for it. So I'm really happy. Yeah. So I don't know if you watch this show, Flex, but I'm rooting for you, man. I think you're the most dangerous guy in the show.
He's definitely watching it. There's no doubt in my mind. He likes the show. Well, Tony, you know what? It was a pleasure to talk to you as always. I could probably talk to you for 2 hours and not run out of topics to discuss. Obviously, we're praying for you that they're going to open up the gyms again, and that they'll pull your quarantine pretty soon, so you guys can start making money again and get back to normal, and hopefully restore bodybuilding by the end of the year to its former glory over there in Australia. It's a shame that the Arnold is not going to happen, but I think it's a realistic approach at this point, given the fact that things are still closed and we're coming toward the end of the year already. But hang tough, man. Keep doing what you're doing and living the passion for bodybuilding, because you know what? It's guys like you and that keep the sport alive, and I think a lot of people are in a very negative state, and hopefully that watching this interview picked them up and made them say, you know what, I don't have it so bad either. I'm gonna put my best foot forward, and I'm gonna try to make it work, because that's all we can do, right?
Yeah, thanks, Dave. And with the Arnold next year, look, we'll be doing something in some form. We've just got to work out the how. Yeah. So just hang tight on that one and watch that space, everyone. We're not going to quit. We're not going to give up. We're going to keep encouraging people to be their best. And as I say, when you get down about this, just stop and think it's just a pause. It's not the end of the world. It's just a pause that has been in some ways good for us. Yeah. And enough's enough. Can't wait to get back to normal. But, I'm a little bummed that I won't be able to come to the Olympia this year. I just love hanging out with everyone.
Hey, man, you got to be with your family over the holidays. They're the most important, and you're making the right decision. Look, I've had to make some tough decisions over the last 2 years, too, with the birth of new children, and I have young kids, and I know eventually I'll be back to going to the shows again at some point in the future. It's not the end of the world to miss a couple of Olympias and a couple Arnolds. I've seen plenty of them already. And when I go back, when we're all old men, we'll have fun at these shows. We'll toast to the fact that everything's back to normal again. And we'll talk about 2020, that year when the world was almost shut down, right?
That's the one thing we will not discuss. Fuck it. That's done.
No one will believe us. We'll be like, they'll be like, it wasn't that bad. We'll be like, it was that bad. It was that bad. Trust me.
Hey, listen. Take care, Dave, and thanks for everything you do. Thanks for everything you do for the sport. I think I've been coming on, being interviewed by you for about 20 years, and we've always
at least
a lot of fun and mutual respect. So, much love to you all and everybody stay safe out there. We'll be back.
Absolutely. Thanks, Tony. And guys, that's going to take us to the end of another episode of Live With, brought to you by Species Nutrition. I'm Dave Palumbo for Tony Doherty. We'll see you next time.